Egypt, a country that's fascinated travelers for thousands of years. From the Great Pyramids of Giza, to the tombs of the Valley of the King, to the incredible coral reefs of the Red Sea. It's a place that just feels magical. But if you're like most people considering to travel to Egypt, you're probably wondering, is Egypt still safe to travel to in 2025? We spent 2 weeks exploring 3 very different parts of the country: Cairo, Luxor, Sharm el-Sheikh. And in this video, I'll share our full experience. We'll cover safety, the top things to do, what makes each city unique, and my best recommendations for each city. So let's dive in. Let's start with safety, because this is the question I get asked about by far the most. And the answer is a bit of a tricky one. We've been to Egypt once before in 2023, so we had a little prior experience with the country before we went this year as well too. But it can still be a very confronting country if you're not ready for what can happen within it. Some people I've talked to who have visited Egypt said that they were completely fine and had absolutely no issues, while other people have warned us about scams and political tension. So what's the truth? In our experience, we actually felt pretty safe in Egypt. In most tourist areas, it's a huge security presence. You've got police checks, you've got security gates, you've got security personnel. At a lot of the bigger hotels, they have bag scans and bag checks when you enter the place. And at most major attractions, there's just extra guards and extra security. For some people, this might be a little bit confronting at first, seeing all these people with guns or with extra armored security, but they quickly become a part of the background and you don't really notice them after a little while once you've been there. A lot of these people would actually say hello as you walk past and were quite welcoming and happy to see you. Despite holding rifles that made them look quite intimidating, they were not in any way, shape or form confronting. That being said, try to avoid taking any photos or videos near them or of them. They really don't appreciate that, and that's a very common theme throughout Egypt that can get you in a lot of trouble, is unwanted videography or photography. Make sure that you're trying to avoid taking videos and photos of other people. If you're doing vlogs, be a little bit careful in that sense. They don't like that at all. That being said, there are some things we definitely need to talk about when you're traveling to Egypt, and the biggest one is scams. Whether it's from taxis, souvenir shops, or just people on the street who are wanting to help you, it's everywhere and it's part of their culture. Bakshish is the Arabic word for tip, and it is a part of their culture in Egypt. And that's not exactly after scams necessarily, or just a process of being around Americans and expecting tips. It's what they do to actually give each other little favors for tasks. But the amount of tips that they'll ask you is much more extraordinary than what they ask of their fellow Egyptians. Often a tip of 50 Egyptian pounds, which is about $1 at the time of this video, is more than enough for just about anything that you'll come across. It's probably even too much to some degree, but most people will be okay with tipping $1 here and there just to get people off their back. But you'll notice they ask for much more than that. They'll ask that you've got extra 5 USD, 5 euro, 5 whatever. They'll ask for more. So you have to be firm and stand your ground with this. Speaking of standing your ground, when you come to Egypt, you'll need to be polite but firm in your discussions with people. I tend to be too polite when I'm discussing with people, and this definitely labeled me as a target for the Egyptians to try and sell things to constantly.
No, thank you, sir.
500 Egyptian pounds.
No, thank
I'll
you.
give you 400.
No, I don't want at all.
350.
No, I don't want any price. No. La shukran.
200.
La shukran. No, it's okay. La shukran. I beg you.
My fiance was definitely much more of the firm type, and so they left her alone quite a lot more because they knew that they weren't going to get anything out of her. Stay firm with the tipping and payment, because after you tip them, they will still ask for more. They will say it's not enough, or they'll act like you gave them a low tip. But again, any tip that you usually give them is acceptable. It's just they'll ask for more because they know that you're a tourist and therefore probably have money to travel to other countries. Therefore, they'll want to squeeze out as much as they can. Fair enough. But again, stay firm with this and don't let them bully you into anything more, because their demeanor can change a lot when it comes to money. So make sure you stay quite firm about this. A lot of the time they'll want to get you into their shop, they want to sell you a souvenir, but they'll never open with that line of questioning. They're always a little bit sneaky, but they're very good salesmen.
Hello. You like Egyptian?
Where from?
Australia, my friend.
I am love Australia business.
You love it? Yes, good.
What looking for can help you?
No, nothing, mate. I just gotta go get my fiance who's in the restaurant.
They'll ask you where you're from, what are you doing tomorrow, where are you going right now, etc. try and make some conversation and begin the selling process. Sometimes it might even be children trying to sell to you, which can be a little bit confronting again too, because they'll often claim that it's so that they can actually eat. And although that this actually may be true sometimes, a lot of the times the parents will put their children up to selling these little items for an overpriced amount, just to actually then take the money off the children. They kind of use it as a way to get money. So again, if you're going to buy something off the children, just be a little bit selective and see if there's anyone watching them around, because often they'll take the money and give it back to someone else and then probably not see any of it themselves. Be very careful with things like camel rides and make sure you have an agreed upon price before you get onto the camel. They'll often tell you that the camel ride is free, or come up and take a photo, or just take a photo of me on the camel or something like that, like the Egyptian person on the camel. Then they'll ask you for money because you've taken a photo, because you've taken a ride, because you've, whatever. There's nothing free in Egypt, unfortunately. They'll make it seem like it is. They'll make it seem like they just want you to come to the country, and they do. They're very happy people for the most part, but a lot of these people working around tourist attractions will use it as a way to try and get money out of you, okay? So be careful with that stuff. Usually if someone hands you something free, give it straight back. In Cairo, you can use Uber, and it's very, very cheap and very good as well too. Outside of Cairo, use InDrive. It's just a different app that works a lot better, and it's actually a really cool app because you get to set the price and barter with the actual driver on the price before you accept it. So it's still a very good process. It definitely need to use that in Luxor. They do not have Uber in Luxor, so whatever you're doing, if you're heading to Luxor, download InDrive or find a taxi through the hotel or something like that. It's a very different process. As far as general crime, we never felt unsafe walking around Cairo at night. We walked through Khan el-Khalili, we walked through some of the markets, we walked around some of the tourist attractions. We never felt unsafe from anyone at all. Yes, they will still try to sell to you even at 2 a.m. if you walk past, but there was never unsafe, or never felt like they were going to get aggressive or anything like that at all. Maybe I would get stared at a little bit because of the hair or the tattoos, but essentially there was nothing else going on there, and these people were just trying to make some money. For women travelers, both solo and group, you do have to pay a little bit more care and attention, unfortunately. It's annoying that I have to say that in 2025, but unfortunately, if you're not dressed modestly, you can bring on unwanted attention. A lot of the places will demand that you are fully covered if you're going to anywhere religious, like a mosque. So please be aware of that, or they just will not let you in, and you must respect that, or they'll get very angry. So to answer the biggest question, yes, Egypt is absolutely safe to travel to in 2025, but stay alert, informed, and flexible with what you're actually doing. We never felt in danger the entire time we were there. The Egyptian people were extremely friendly. They're actually quite mischievous, and they make a lot of jokes. They're quite sarcastic, so be ready for their dry humor. But despite that, we were cautious and respectful the entire time we were there. We never had any issues in the country, and it's definitely safe. So now let's talk about Cairo. This was the first stop on our journey, and it's probably where most people start their Egyptian adventure because it's got the biggest airport. It's very easy to see why. It can be such a chaotic city. There's about 25+ million people living in the city, and when you fly over it, it looks insane. It's loud, it can be overwhelming at times, but it's also absolutely unforgettable. The must-sees here are pretty obvious. The pyramids of Giza and the Sphinx are probably some of the biggest ones that you'll get to see. The market, Khan el-Khalili, is pretty magical as well too. We didn't get time to go to Coptic Cairo, but also seeing Coptic Cairo and seeing some of the Catholic and Christian influences in the city, a mainly Arabic city, is quite interesting to see too. But you'll be surprised at how accepting Egyptians are of multicultural religions and things like that too. So it's definitely worth checking out the influences of other countries in Cairo. Pro tip, if you're going to the pyramids, which you almost definitely will be if you're going to Cairo, is go early in the morning, right? Makes sense, it's going to be slightly less hot. Egypt's hot, okay? So be ready for that no matter what. But going earlier in the morning, it doesn't pick up the same amount of heat. You'll be able to get through just a little bit nicer, but still wear sunscreen, bring sun protection. The sun can be brutal. It's not like Australia's sun, but it's still pretty brutal. So please keep that in mind for that. I don't think you can get a good picture of the grand size of it. It literally is just like a monolith. It goes straight up in the air. Like, you can't even get a picture for how big it actually is from this position. It's remarkable, really. The pyramids have changed since the last time we went. They're so magical still. They're the most breathtaking monuments I've ever seen in my life up close in person. They changed the pyramid area from last time we went in 2023, and it's much more restricted now in who can access it and what cars and vehicles can access it. It means you get quite a lot less people actually selling stuff in the pyramid area, which is really appreciated because you'll see a lot of old videos talking about a lot of scammers and a lot of people just trying to sell you stuff non-stop and making it quite unenjoyable. That was like notably reduced when we actually went again this time. So the new format with the new entrance is really, really good. In 2023, we went to the Old Egyptian Museum that's actually in Cairo. That was absolutely amazing, packed with artifacts, including some of Tutankhamun's treasures, even including his face mask. This time we actually went to the almost completely open new Grand Egyptian Museum, which is not too far from the pyramids. And this building was absolutely stunning as well too. The amount of archaeological finds that they've got there is breathtaking. It's still got some things that they got to do before they fully open it. And there's a grand opening, I believe, later this year. They feel like they keep saying that though. But when it's fully open, it is absolutely going to be jaw-dropping and definitely worthwhile. Cairo is very full of life. You'll hear a lot of call to prayer echoes throughout the city as the day goes on and as it ends to night. Definitely try and get to something on the actual River Nile. We went for like a river cruise, a dinner river cruise, and had some dancing and some shows. This was absolutely worthwhile. Some belly dancing was really good as well too. Get that pretty well priced on a thing like Get Your Guide, but I'm sure also whatever hotel you stay at will have some options for these rides as well too. That said, Cairo can be exhausting. The traffic is absolutely wild to say the least. The air can get quite dusty, and obviously with so many people it can get quite crowded. Personally, I'd recommend spending maybe about 3 to 4 days here. Possibly add an extra onto 5 days if you're going to do one of those big long day trips out of the city into like Siwa Oasis or something like that, which we didn't get to do, but I've heard is really good and looks very good on photos. The long days out in the sun can exhaust you more than you'd think. So again, make sure you've got a little bit of time to rest and recover in between activities because you'll find you get dehydrated very, very quickly. Stay long enough to see the highlights, but don't let yourself get burned out. After Cairo, we headed south to Luxor, and honestly, this is one of the most surprising things of the entire trip. Luxor is basically an open-air museum of all these artifacts, tombs, and temples. The Valley of the Kings is absolutely incredible. You can actually walk inside the tombs of the ancient pharaohs with wall paintings that still have their original colors that are very well preserved, and it's like totally stepping back in time. Karnak Temple was one of the big surprises for me as well too. It was one of the largest temple complexes in the world, and some of the graffiti on the walls was from the 1800s. That alone blew my mind with how old the graffiti was, yet alone how old the actual pillars and temples actually were within it, which are over 4,000 years old. One of the most unique experiences of Luxor though was definitely the hot air balloon. We took a hot air balloon at sunrise and it went over the Valley of the Kings, over Queen Hatshepsut's tomb as well too, and you can even see a little bit of the River Nile off in the distance as well too. It was absolutely stunning in the morning. We did the hot air balloon in Cappadocia in Turkey 2 years ago, and I have to say that the hot air balloon in Egypt was about a quarter of the price, and honestly probably just as, if not better looking from the actual balloon. So I'd highly recommend this. It was incredible value and was part of our trip with the Valley of the Kings and Karnak Temple all included. So for about a quarter of the cost of just the hot air balloon in Cappadocia. So highly recommend that when you're heading to Luxor as well too. We met a young man when on our journey named Mohammed. He took us on a felucca boat ride on the River Nile through Luxor right at sunset. That was absolutely stunning as well too. So if you get the chance to go on a felucca, grab a couple drinks, it can be quite a romantic night, evening. I highly recommend that as well too because it's quite cheap. It only cost us 30 Australian, and I think we got overcharged for a couple beers and a sunset cruise that went for about 2 hours. So that was really, really nice. Compared to Cairo, Luxor feels a lot more calm. You'll hear quite a lot more of the prayers. It feels a lot more authentic Egyptian in some ways as well too. It's still quite busy, but the vibe is a lot slower, a lot more chilled, and it's definitely much more focused on history rather than the hustle bustle of the big city. I'd recommend at least 3 days here to really soak it all in though. After immersing ourselves in ancient history, we finished our trip heading to Sharm el-Sheikh, and this wasn't what I had expected at all. Sharm is all about the Red Sea. If you love diving or snorkeling, this place is incredible. The coral reefs here are world famous, and you'll see more colour fish than you can imagine. Even if you're not a diver, you can take boat trips or just swim in the unbelievably clear water. This is probably the best snorkeling I've ever done in my life. I've done it in Australia and the Philippines, two of the most beautiful countries ever, and arguably this was better. It was so clear that the diversity was just remarkable. We booked this through Get Your Guide, and honestly, I think we paid about 40 Australian dollars for a half-day tour of the Ras Mohammed National Park. That was definitely worth it. So highly recommend if you're into snorkeling or diving, this is one of the best spots in the world to do so. The town itself is very modern and built around tourism though. Think beach resorts, nightclubs, all-inclusive resorts where essentially all your alcohol, all your food is paid for, so you just go up to the bar and get whatever you want, whenever you want. It's less about Egyptian culture and more just about unwinding, which is great if you're heading there to relax and have a holiday. But if you're wanting Egyptian culture and to actually explore history, this probably isn't as much for you as you would think.
This resort's a beautiful place. There's a lot of interesting activities going on. They've got buffet meals. There's a lot of incredible things like that and extras that they've got. And if you're keen on that kind of thing and keen on drinking as much as you can and staying in the same place, it's a pretty cool place to be. When I come to Egypt, I don't really like to just stay at the hotel and eat Western food. That's kind of the point of traveling to an Arabic country for me, is to experience Arabic culture and the culture of whatever country we're actually in. So, the resort itself, you can't knock the resort. It's doing its thing. It's a resort. But if you're after that traditional experience, I don't think this is the place for you.
Our resort had a surprising amount of Russians and Italians in it for some reason. No prayers over the speakers like there were in the other two cities. Limited true Egyptian food. There was quite international. A lot of the dinners had, French fries and stuff like that just to appease Americans or whoever else it might be. Even though, again, the resort was all inclusive and this was a nice thing. We saved money on not buying food out. Egypt's food isn't that expensive to buy out, so it's not as if we saved yourself a huge amount of money either. If you're an Australian, you'll relate to this piece of info, but I thought of Sharm el-Sheikh as like Europe's Bali. It's cheap, it's relaxing, the all-inclusive resort to drink all day and get drunk and sunburn is great if you're into that. But if you want to travel and explore, this place probably isn't going to suit you as well, in my opinion. We did have a camel ride and a little half-day exploration into the desert. There was a night show that had fire dancing and buffet food. This was great value, but we did one very similar in Dubai, and the one in Dubai was definitely higher quality, better run, a lot smoother as well too, but still this was good value, so I'm certainly not going to put it down. It was very good and worthwhile if you're in Sharm el-Sheikh. But that's what makes Sharm so different though. It's about unwinding, it's about having fun and enjoying the natural beauty and spending time probably with more family and friends rather than actually exploring Egypt. So it can be a great way to end your Egypt trip after all the sightseeing. Some other little tips and tricks that I think are worth mentioning. The time of year to go, they always say going in the winter time is probably actually best. It's very popular to go in summer, but going in summer is obviously when the heat is at its worst. Luxor is probably the hottest of the three places. Luxor can get well above 40 degrees in summer. We were there at the start of September and it was still reaching, 36, 37 degrees some days. So it is quite hot. Be prepared for that. So going in some of those cooler months like October through to April, it's probably best if you're really trying to avoid the heat and get a lot of walking and activities done. It's very dry heat. Sometimes you get a nice breeze, especially along the coast where you were at Sharm el-Sheikh. So sometimes with the breeze, it's not too unbearable, but still pack sunscreen and be ready for that dryness when you get it on your skin too. You'll want moisturizer. In terms of transport, domestic flights were pretty easy to use. We flew from Cairo to Luxor, Luxor back to Cairo, Cairo to Sharm el-Sheikh. So we did a little bit of flying to save ourselves a bit of time. Cost us maybe a little bit extra, but it was pretty easy. The buses and trains work pretty well, supposedly. I've also heard that they can have some slight issues in terms of they're usually overnight. Sometimes they don't have air conditioning that works properly. Obviously, they're slower than flying. So again, factor this into your budget. It's not terrible, but we didn't have much experience with it, so I can't recommend it or say it's no good either. In terms of money, cash is definitely king. They love cash in Egypt. However, that being said, they love all forms of cash. They do prefer American dollars over everything, but they will take Egyptian pound. They will say they don't, but they will, because they'll take any money they can. Most shops have ATMs as well too nowadays, so if you've got your card in your Apple Wallet or Android Wallet or whatever it sort of is, you'll be able to pay for most things on the spot with card. Some places will want cash, and again, there's ATMs all over the place, so it's not very hard to go get if you need to. But again, keep cash on you for tips, bakshish, but otherwise, card payments are going to be fine most places. In terms of guide, highly recommend finding a good guide, okay? Get your guide is really important. I'm going to link a good guide under this video here. We had a guide named Jasmin and Mohammed. Jasmin and Mohammed worked as a team to take us to the Giza pyramids and the Sphinx. They got us sugarcane juice, they got us a buffet lunch, they took us to jewelry shops, they took us all over the place. So I highly recommend them as well too, and I'll put them down below. They made us feel nice and safe, and Jasmin was an excellent guide and taught us incredibly the entire time. Again, cultural respect. Dress modestly. Try not to stand out too much and bring unwanted attention to yourself, both guys and girls, in terms of Cairo and in terms of Egypt in general, especially when you're around mosques and local neighborhoods. There's just no need to bring this attention to yourself or make it seem like you're disrespecting their ways as well too. And in terms of scams, remember, bargain. You're allowed to barter, you're allowed to come up with different prices, but be polite, be prepared for them to argue back a little bit too. Know that it's not personal, but they're just trying to get as much money as they can. Their economy's not great, they're trying to get their money to feed their family. Again, don't make that your own problem and pay them too much. However, just keep that in mind that that's why they are trying so hard to get money. If something feels off, say no, walk away, ignore what they say as you're walking, and just keep going. So, is Egypt safe to travel in 2025? From our experience, absolutely. Should you travel to Egypt in 2025? Yes, 100% worth it. It's one of the best countries in the world. It's incredible value. The people are remarkable. Egypt's a country that combines history, culture, and natural beauty in a way few other countries can. Cairo, Luxor, and Sharm el-Sheikh were really great ways to experience 3 different sides of the country as well too. If you wanted to swap out Sharm el-Sheikh with Hurghada or something else along the coast, I think you could do that pretty easily as well too and get a pretty good overview of what I'm talking about when it comes to the Red Sea. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about traveling to Egypt or any other country, please drop them in the comments, message me, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you. Please don't forget, subscribe for more.